welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Greg and
Thomas.
So if you notice, I have a little Christmas tree in the back. This is our wonderful Christmas episode where we're going to talk about the fake war on Christmas. So the reason why we have this special episode, we weren't going to do one this week, but I was on Instagram and I saw this funny video of the lovely Tucker Carlson. And I couldn't stop laughing. And so I sent it to you, Thomas, called you, and we were just having a blast, like making fun of this. So let's go ahead and share that.
After a series of, living your entire life being kind of bullied into what you can and cannot say and presumptions that you're bad people, that it can be the smallest thing that tips you over the edge. That's the tipping point. And in this case, it's, calling gingerbread men a gingerbread person when obviously they're men.
Well, so maybe the lesson is that the rest of us shouldn't participate in our own spiritual neutering. And that we should, at every step along the way, say, I'm not complying with that.
That is correct. Calling gingerbread men a gingerbread person when obviously they're men.
Oh my God, that ending. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, so Thomas, what's happened in England? Like, please, thoughts on this?
Like there are far too many people who like masculinity is so fragile that like even like the to not gender a cookie properly to them is like the end, like the like it's the cataclysm, like it's like the end. Like society, like I saw tweets were like this is Biden's America or something, and it's like it's the gingerbread person, and I'm just like really like you're so fragile over a cookie. like that's how deeply unserious these people are. Like,
yeah, I mean, if it's not a cookie to these people, it's a fucking red cup. It is just simply saying happy holidays. They call us the snowflakes.
Yeah.
They call us the sensitive ones. Yet having any sort of inclusivity is a threat to them.
Yeah.
Whether it be race or gender or sexual orientation. When they are not in the center stage, they feel attacked.
Yeah.
So why do you think the right uses Christmas as like one of their tactics? Is it because people on the right are typically Christian, or what do you think?
I think there is a toxicity towards like sort of reminiscing about the past, or like as if like this country used to be great, or like there's a very like toxic feeling, or just general like sort of how you get like retro, like everything's like retro, or everything has to be about doing like what was supposedly good, or like there's just this very toxic idea of people are trying to stay in the past, in this like false past that never really existed. It existed for a very small minority of people, where it probably was to them like the best time, like the best era for them. What people really are reminiscing about is the fact that we weren't in like peak capitalism, where things were relatively okay for anybody that was white, working class, not even just working class, you actually had a middle class. And so for that niche group of people, the America of old is probably a very compelling, almost like you're looking back at a fantasy really that didn't really exist for a lot of people, but only a very small niche amount of
Yeah.
people.
And like now that we're in a time where like the people who, you know, now people who didn't get a voice back then have a voice, they're trying to replicate that fantasy in a world that the majority are not going to want and can actually say that out loud. Yeah, you're right about that. Well, I just see it as the right, just using Christmas as a tactic to, get their base all fired up. And when Trump won, he said it himself. He was like, "We got Christmas back." I'm like, I don't remember Christmas ever leaving. I still sing the Christmas songs, but it's just something that I guess just to fire up their base, just to stay mad.
It's also a tactic of keeping the conversation around these like I don't know if I can swear. I was gonna say just like ridiculous culture, socio culture issues around like should it be called, like they keep the conversation on these issues particularly because anything that stems outside of those issues is a threat to, like, they don't want the position to sway towards classism or anything to do with class or anything to do with policy or anything to do. So they keep and you see this a lot with conservatives, they keep it fixated on stuff that actually doesn't really matter at the end, like doesn't really fundamentally change people's lives in a huge way. You know what I mean? Like, not to say that on a broader level, LGBTQ issues are extremely important. Race is extremely important, but like when you have these like fake culture wars with Christmas, with gingerbread person, with like, you imagine like Fox, and I'm not just calling out Fox, but this is the level of journalism where they literally put a gingerbread person picture on TV and do a whole story on it for I don't know how many hours they dedicate to that segment, but like if you really like just really grasp the fact that rather than talking about homelessness, rather than talking about poverty, rather than talking about people who don't have healthcare in a
Yeah,
pandemic,
it's a good
like they're
distraction.
focusing on the fact that a gingerbread person triggers them so much that's the thing that's newsworthy.
Mhm.
And they've done that on purpose. That's a purpose. They've done that purposely.
Yeah, it's a tactic to keep them actually hearing what they would want is if they like, instead of hearing the truth about universal health care, they're going to be fixated on the fake culture war and the fake war on Christmas, which is ridiculous. You're right.
I think I think this tactic, it's been going on for a very long time. I don't know if you remember this, but during the Bush years, after 9/11, there was this big hysteria of terrorism, like huge hysteria, to a point where they were telling people to go out and buy gas masks and like shelter equipment. And there were mass sellouts of like face mask equipment
Well,
and
same thing with when it came to, I mean, during the Cold War, you had people
yeah,
buying bunkers.
bunker, yeah, and like long I don't know what it's called here, the food that you can keep for years on
Oh
end.
yeah, like the nasty nuclear war food. Yeah.
the war food, yeah, and that stuff is, yeah. But like, this, I think, to answer your original question about why there's like such hysteria around things like this, I think a large part of it is, like I said before, it's a toxic view of the past and reminiscing of that past. And I think it's also a combination of the media like making a hysteria over something that just doesn't deserve any airtime whatsoever.
Yeah, well, all I can really say, folks, is that there is no war on Christmas. People are still gonna get their presents. Unless if you're naughty, then you're gonna get cold. But to close this, it's a really short episode, y'all. So to close it off, I want to go ahead and ask you, Thomas, because it popped into my head. What's Christmas like in the UK? Is it as commercial as it is here in the United States? Are the traditions different? Like, can you explain that?
I think over the years, I think it has gradually got more commercialized than it was. I've had the opportunity to being in other countries for Christmas. I've been in France, and that
Cool.
in France was very uh not very commercialized at all. It was very family orientated, and French follows Christianity focused, but it was very much less consumption based. And I think, my I've said this before, my especially my mom's side, my mom grew up very poor.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's, I think over the years it has shifted towards very much more like what you I suppose an American style Christmas, which is very much um, you know gift and buying of gifts focused. But yeah.
Yeah, personally, I don't really celebrate the religious aspect of it. I'm not a Christian, I'm a witch, but I do celebrate the winter solstice. I do like, spending time with family and friends and gathering, and I like the gift giving, like think of a thoughtful gift, like on based of like, oh, this person's gonna love this because they like this.
Yeah.
So putting thought into your presence, I really like doing that. That's what I like celebrating, and I'm glad that, some people do that. But yeah, well, folks, thank you again for tuning in to this very short episode, Christmas special. I hope y'all have a great holiday and a happy new year. Take care, folks.
Take care.